Welcome gamers and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we are going to take a look at the best 5 champions for low elo. They're absolutely broken, easy to pilot and just the best of the best if you want to climb. Ready for it? Then let's tackle our question of the day. What do you think about the current build pass? Let me know in the comments below. As our first champion, we have the all-time classic Jinx. This champion is just too overpowered for the low elo bracket and too easy to pilot. But what makes her so unbelievably strong? Jinx as a champion has insane range, and especially in the lower elo brackets, combining it with lethal tempo, you'll have a blast. The issue with this champion most of the time is that once she gets somebody killed, she just runs them down. And especially if you consider that you can buy Runon's Hurricane and normal crit items, and this champion becomes a menace. Number 1, she attacks you from outside of your vision range, most of the time, at least for my iPad. The next thing is her damage. Because of her rocket splash with the Runon's Hurricane, her damage is very weird to gauge. So whenever she hits you once, but there are people around you while she has Runon's Hurricane, plus the rocket launcher enabled, you will just evaporate within seconds, without even noticing a thing, and that is the exact crazy part. There's also something we need to talk about when it comes to her laning power. A lot of people think that Jinx lane is rather weak, but that's not true at all. Jinx range during the laning phase is absolutely insane. For one, she has the capability of dealing with the wave super quickly, and second, she can immediately attack enemies upon anything they're doing. For AD carries, you have to keep in mind, whenever the enemy is trying to last hit somebody, you need to punish this, and Jinx is amazing for that. Just quickly swap to the rocket launcher, blast the head wand, and then just walk away. You repeat the same process over and over again and the enemy will be low HP and you'll be happy. Also, depending on the enemy's position, you can use the rocket launcher to hit minions and then hit enemy champions at the same time with it. Just always depends on their positioning and how you can abuse this. It's wonderful if you learn how to use the minion button and the champion or normal attack button. Then you truly ascend as a Jinx player. Next up comes Evelynn, the true terror of everybody in WildRift, be it low, high elo or anywhere else. The biggest problem with this championess is that she's stealth, and whenever something disappears from your sight, it doesn't exist anymore, at least in the WildRift terms. You can see a jungler around your lane doing something, and 5 seconds later you literally forget about his existence and then you die to a gank. It happens all the time. Trust me, and with Evelynn it happens really all the time. With the changes to the jungle role, there's something you have to keep in mind. As an Evelynn, you want to roughly full clear your jungle, mostly starting with your Krug camp. Once you've done this, you go to red buff, the chickens, then the wolves, then the blue buff and then the gromp. You don't really care about the crabs as your full clear grants you your level 5. With level 5 you can then easily gank anything you want or you can just take a reset. Upon taking that reset, you can choose what you do next. Do you want to just waltz into a lane and get something killed, or do you just want to wait and shadow somebody to help somebody? Shadowing generally describes a way of hiding out of sight so the enemy makes a mistake into thinking that your ally is alone, then you punish them. Quite easy, but super effective. But here's something you need to know about how you want to approach those ganks. Whenever you gank as an Evelynn, try to come from behind. You don't want to be actually coming from in front because then they would just walk away from you once you toggle your second ability onto their heads. Therefore, just position yourself behind them or slightly to the right or left of them and then cast your heart. That way they'll be naturally drawn into one direction and then you can punish them easily afterwards, because sometimes or most of the times they'll just run into your open arms and you can embrace them with a lovely and timely death. Another easy and broken champion is Garen. This champion has been a solid staple of most pro compositions since the dawn of time, and he's just too overpowered in what he does, aka not dying and surviving lane. And especially if you consider how much damage this champion does, with just a Blood Cleaver and Starrick's Gauge, you'll be surprised what he can do. And if you slap a Gargle enchant on top, you'll be very surprised what he can do. However, there's also a small problem with Garen. It's called Divine Sunderer. This item is pretty good against him and any Gargle user because it grants the user a lot of healing when attacking tanky characters. That is something you have to keep in mind. But for laning, you'll always have a great time because of the following. You just run Ignite and pop your ultimate on the enemy team and you take away 50% of the enemy's HP. So all you have to do is get them to 50%, which you can easily do with Grasp of the Undying, your first ability, your third ability, and then you just ult them and ignite them. Many people don't even really know that Garen does so much damage, and you'll catch them by surprise so many times. I cannot even put enough emphasis on it, it's crazy. And once we reach the later stages of the game, all you have to do as a Garen is locate the enemy carry, run directly into his face and slap him. They can't really stop you because you're too tanky and deal too much damage. They have to expend a lot of resources to even think about doing so. So just be aware of the enemy's position, locate them, and just run them down. It's that easy. For our next champion, we have Nasus. This lovely dog is absolutely insane in the low elo bracket. You might ask me why, and here's the deal about him. This champion scales very well, and with the introduction of Divine Sundra, he just doesn't die anymore. Once he pops his ultimate ability, he will just take quick care of you. He'll smash you with a siphoning strike, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even the strongest champions such as Irelia can really struggle against him once he reaches that Divine Sundra point without dying beforehand. During the laning phase, you have to be a little bit mindful though. Your primary idea or primary goal is to stack up safely without dying. If you want to go for trades, you just take Grasp of the Undying, and every time you have a Grasp proc, you can look for a quick trade. But you'll rarely end up killing somebody unless they really mess up. So really focus on the wave and making sure it doesn't slow push into the enemy tower. Just get as many CS as possible without exposing yourself to too much risk, because once you're level 5, the entire game changes. On level 5, you can finally fight back even the strongest champions, as I said before. All you have to do, press R and then slap them away. But this becomes even more powerful as the game goes on. With the Divine Sundra in your inventory, this becomes even more potent. But then the next step is even crazier. You need to buy the Hullbreaker, and with Hullbreaker in your pocket, things get messy. The Hullbreaker will enable you to deal with any magic damage dealer in the game. They won't be able to clear waves anymore, literally impossible. Next to that, if anyone tries to fight you with Hullbreaker in your inventory, they're just going to die. Remember? Ultimate, Divine Sundra, Hullbreaker stats, how do they win? They just can't. They need multiple people to just even deal with you. And they can't really leave you alone, because if they do so, you'll just 2-tap towers within an instant. And if you do this too many times, you'll get the inhibitor tower, and once that happens, the constant pressure of minions flowing into their base will slowly but surely be their demise. Last but surely not least on this list, we have Singed for the mid lane. He's absolutely crazy and easy to pilot. All you have to do is run around with your poison toggle and have a great time. Rylai's Crystal Scepter and Liandry's will do the rest. And this is why you should play more in the middle lane rather than in the Baron lane. You'll have a way easier time in the middle lane because you can't get punished as much. The lane is way shorter and the champions played in this lane are way easier to deal with for Singed than any other normal Baron laner. It's just amazing for him there. Also, if you think about Singed purpose in a game, which is rotation and another rotation, then the mid lane seems just like the most suitable role for him to be played in. Another thing that's quite funny about Singed is that he can't really miss last hits. His poison will always execute them if they're on the wide HP, the execution threshold, unless obviously the tower kills them before, but it's so easy to last hit with it. And if you want to accelerate your games in the fastest manner possible, you have to do the following. Most of the time you'll start the game with a Ruby Crystal. After doing so, you'll rush boots with a Protobelt enchant as fast as possible. Once you have that gold and level 5, you just walk into a side lane, be it Baron or the bot lane. Once you're there, you will, with the power of your boots and the enchantment of Protobelt, just run them down, flip them into your teammates and get them killed. This will for sure accelerate the game. You're basically like a Katarina but in tanky. It's amazing, fun and just glorious. And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more RiftGuides content, just join in for the next video.